Welcome back to Counter Culture. We were just talking about chickens.
Cheep, cheep.
we're talking about what kind of friend would give somebody else chickens.
A rooster.
A rooster,
Without
specifically.
him knowing it.
See, and I think that it's a good friend because it's a friend that wants you to have more chickens. It's just continually wanting. It's the gift that keeps giving. This is a good thing, but you do not share that point of view.
I do not.
However, I do want to talk to you about this whole thing, right? We talk about in Christendom, that there are works that were created for you to do.
Christendom.
That's right.
There is a podcast. Christendom.
Especially when we start talking about chickens, right? So there are works that were created for you to do. Right? And we talk about that as we encourage people constantly, like, hey, who knows that you were put on this earth for such time as this, and all of that
Issachar.
kind of stuff. Right?
Or was that Esther or Issachar? That was Esther. Esther. Issachar was... What was Issachar?
I do not.
I don't remember either. All right.
Well, we'll look
Esther. We'll look it up.
All right, so
someone tell us.
I want you to look at me. Not at me, sorry. I want you to look with me at Judges. Judges chapter 4. And there's a story.
Continue to look at you.
There is a story here, right? So can you read some for me? Because I want to continue this trend of letting you be actually a part of this whole
wow.
thing. Right? Can you read 4 through 10 for me?
Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lepidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She held court under the palm of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites came to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead the way to Mount Tabor. I will lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands. What, verse 10?
Yep.
Barak said to her, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. Very well, Deborah said, I will go with you. But because of the way you are going about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh, where he summoned Zebulun and Naphtali. 10,000 men followed him, and Deborah also went with him.
So I want to talk about two things here.
Okay.
The first one is the obvious one that's in here, right? We often get into these Old Testament battles about women and the place of women, and we get in this in the New Testament, right? But in this story, God seems to be counterculture from the very beginning, right? First of all, there's a woman prophetess, right? Elevated to a place of, hey, people listen to her, right?
A judge, yes.
Yep, a judge of people, and she was leading people, and God was obviously working through her because the Bible says so. Right? So I think a lot of times people in our culture look at Christianity, they look at the Old Testament, and they see the treatment of women, and they don't think very highly of it. But from the very beginning, God had a place for women. Right? God was way ahead of the curve, probably the first women's lib, right? Promoter out there, right? But when we look at this story, right? She gives Barak a opportunity to lead something. She says, hey, listen, there is a work created for you, right? Take 10,000 men, do this. God's going to lead these people into your hands, right? You're going to get a mighty victory out of this whole thing. But he says to her, I won't do it unless you go with me, right? I won't do it unless you go with me.
Reminds me of Mo Howard with the other two stooges. I'll lead the way, you go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly right? This whole idea, and it's been a long way of forming this whole idea of, I'll do what you say, God, but I need a safety net. I need to make sure that you're with me. I need to make sure that everything's going to work out all right. I need to make sure. Sometimes in counterculturalism, and when we talk about this, as far as being in the church, sometimes we don't get to have that safety net, do we?
No.
That's a very short answer.
No, we don't.
Sometimes
well, you
God,
asked a yes or no question.
Sometimes God says to us, Mark, Dr. Mark, I have a plan for you, a purpose for you. I have something for you to accomplish for me, right? But you're going to have to just stand up and believe that I'm going to do this for you and get it done.
And Dr. Mark says, I'm not going without Andrew.
There you go. And so then God...
And he says, Andrew gets all the glory. I said, okay, he can stay. No.
But isn't that funny? Because that right there is how we would do it.
Yeah,
right? We would say, well, wait.
Can someone go with me?
Right.
Can someone go with me? Or how about that? Can someone go with? Don't end a sentence with. Or a question with. That's terrible.
God says, listen, I have a work for you, right? In our culture today, we see this all the time. People who don't want to do things unless they're sure that it's going to happen, have some kind of a safety net, have some kind of a, like, oh, God absolutely is going to do this.
And yet there are several prophets that were told, go preach this message, but they're not going to respond. They're not going to listen. They're going to probably throw you in jail. Jeremiah, I think Isaiah, all of the prophets, at one point or another were told, go share this message, but it's not going to be what you think is successful. So on Sunday morning, and I have said this many times to my congregation, I said it last Sunday, and it made it to Facebook. I'm responsible to you, not for you. I've talked about it on here, I think. Responsible to you, not for you. Sunday morning, this was such a freeing moment for me. If you're a pastor watching this, let this be a freeing moment for you. I will, when I preach the word on Sunday morning, I will put my head on the pillow that night and know that I have done what God has asked me to do, whether you respond to it or not. Whether anybody in my congregation does it or not, that's not the point. I'm not responsible for them. You can't deny and go stand before the Lord and say, well, Pastor Mark didn't help me get there. And go, yeah, no, that's not true. He preached the word. You just didn't do it instead. Yeah, but it was all Pastor Mark's. No. God's going to say, no, it was on you. It was on you.
Yeah.
All on you. He did what he was supposed to. He did what I asked him to do. You do what you're supposed to do.
So God says, don't be just hearers of the word.
Doers of the word.
Be doers of it as well, right? So we look at that and say, like there's a lot of people who are going to hear, but they refuse to do what God has asked them to do because it's too hard, it's too risky, I think about that all the time when we get that urge, like God says, like, hey, I need you to go talk to so-and-so. I need you to have this conversation. I need you to just be here, be in this place, right? We're like, no.
And who was it? Ananias, wasn't it? He goes, well, I ain't going to talk to Saul.
Yep.
That guy kills Christians, and I ain't going to talk to him.
Okay, do you know who he is, guys?
Do you know? Really?
Have you heard? Have you heard about his reputation?
Yeah, and it's like, I want you to go talk to him. And what did Ananias do, though?
He went.
He went.
And look what happened. But he got to say to God, hey, do you really want me to do this? It's going to kill me, right? And I think about that.
Moses, I can't talk. I can't talk.
Some of the prophets, right, I said the same thing. God, if I go to the king's going to kill me. Yeah. Right? I think of the Elijahs who, dealt with Ahab their entire lifetime.
Well, and the prophets of Baal, and then he got depressed and he went off and it just wore him out.
Yeah. So the end part of this is that Deborah says to him, all right, I'll go with you. Mm-hmm. But the glory's going to leave. Like you said, you're not going to get the glory. And then she says, I'm going to hand it over to a woman, right? Now again, this is funny because this is way before women, have any rights or all this stuff. But I'm going to give this victory to a woman. Now, historians could have written this any way they wanted to, right? They could have left out how he died, right? But it's not. It's included in the Bible. We know that this is exactly what happens. But notice what he says, right? That she says here. Then Deborah rose, right, and went with Barak to Kadesh, and Barak called them. He just does this, right? He accepts it, right? Mm-hmm. He just goes with it. Rather than say, well, wait, right? Or any of the things like you just said. He's like, it's okay, right? I don't need my moment, right? I'm more about the fear takes over and says, no, you got to go with me, right? I think there's a lot of people out there that the fear of what the enemy might do, what could happen over here, it outweighs what God says he's going to do.
But God, what if? As opposed to, God, what if?
Right. I love that. Like, what if God really wants to use you? Mm-hmm. What if God really has a plan to use you? Right. Instead, we focus.
What if I don't take your chickens and
right
they go to the slum lord chicken coop?
What if you do take my chickens and they bless your home in such a way that you have blessings you never could imagine?
That's a little much, Patrick.
Maybe God's saying to you, if you don't take my chickens, somebody else will take them and get the glory.
And they will get the glory and the honor. Right.
Maybe golden eggs are coming. Stay tuned. It's a great way to end counterculture. Yes. We want you to do what God has called you to do. Don't focus on the what if. Focus on the what if. Indeed. God really wants to use you. Yes. And we'll catch you.
For such a time as this.
We'll catch you again next time. Counterculture.